and we'll take a look and see what goes on within the world. So let's start here. So what is sustainability? Some of you, during the last debate I was listening, y'all mentioned the EPA. This is a definition by the EPA: ability to improve, maintain or improve standards of living without depleting resources, natural resources, for present and future generations. And that's a key aspect of what sustainability is. So when we look at something like this is what's currently going on around the world. India, Taiwan. You see this is covered by pollution. This young man, as you can see, there's a smile on his face, but he's about to dip into water that's polluted and contaminated by chemicals, by everything else that you see surrounded here. So the things I'm going to talk about are maybe what we can do as a group, a society, or what corporations can do as a whole in some aspects of CSR. So what is CSR? Again, there's many definitions. I'll just keep it down to one. Refers to business initiatives, part of a company's overall business plan that contributes to sustainable development. So what are these corporations doing? My research dealt with looking at numerous corporations, what are they doing as far as carbon emissions, wastewater, pollution, etc. And I looked at many different sites, many different sources, and I worked with several different organizations to look at how can corporations make a big difference. When we talk about CSR, basically we're talking about what are they doing as far as a business framework. What are they looking at in particularly? People, planet, and profit. So that's what this debate is all about, right? Mostly environment, economic growth. So profit, finances, people. What are the corporations doing as far as people are concerned? Health conditions, work-related conditions. And planet, what are we doing as far as the environmental issues are concerned? I'm primarily going to focus on pollution. For the most part, I could talk at length on about several different aspects, but I'm going to particularly focus on pollution. So pollution as far as the water is concerned. So what are we doing to our marine life as well? The first picture I showed you a glimpse of all the pollution that was around this young man. But what happens as it travels inward toward the waters? Now, this fish, this marine life, may think that this is another fish to eat, jellyfish. But what's happening is that he's going to eat plastic, and therefore he's eventually going to die. So those are things we have to take into consideration. Now, this one's a little bit elaborated, but as you can see, another thing is that fish get caught in the plastic. Not only eating, get caught in the plastic, and therefore they may perish as well. And this looks like icebergs, but this is plastic bags, just to give you an effect of what might be happening out there. All right, the industry that I'm going to focus on primarily is the second polluting industry in the world, and that's the textile industry. Number one is oil. I heard some of you mention oil and gas earlier in a previous debate. So the textile industry, here's some facts I put up here just to take note of. 25 pounds of textiles per year, U.S. generates. That's about 82 pounds per U.S. resident. Of that 82 pounds, 15% gets donated or recycled, just 15%. Let's take a look at the next figure. 85% goes to our landfills. What's happening to our landfills? Clothing is not biodegradable. Not all aspects of it are. Therefore, some of you buy fast fashion. These stores like H&M, Zara, etc. So we buy all these clothes. Some people just throw them away. Go to landfills. What happens when they get into landfills? It releases some toxins that go into the soil. So there's pollution in it again. So these are some things to keep in mind as we journey through the textile industry. Now, for a company to be successful, these are some things we talked about, and again, I heard some debates. If you're going to be a sustainable company, you have to definitely plan. What types of technology are available to use within the industry, depending on which industry, they can be enforced and implemented within the industry itself. Some companies right now are using waterless systems. Levi's is one, and there are several others. How are they implementing their technology as far as that's concerned? Produce. What type of quality product are they producing? For those of you who wear fast fashion, how would you describe this to students? Is the quality good? Not so much, right? So we want better quality product. Fast fashion might last you, how long, maybe a year. That's not very long, right? Push. Logistics. With fast fashion, like I mentioned earlier, there's several runs being trucked in from all around the world. So therefore we have to think about what are these carbon emissions that are being produced by all these trucks delivering 6 to 7 to 8 times turns of different types of styles every year. And the last one is the post-consumer. What is the consumer doing after he or she, what are they doing after, with the product after they finish with it? All right, now there are several things throughout several different processes, and I have cutting, shredding, spinning, dyeing, weaving, and quality check. There are several things that happen within the industry that may cause pollution. But there are several things that some companies are doing that are beneficial, such as a company like Jordache or Levi's. They're taking denim, can you imagine? They're taking denim and turning that into insulation. So those of you who have a house, you know the pink stuff, the fiberglass, that's not being replaced by insulation, predominantly made of denim. They're so sophisticated in some aspects, they have units where this denim that's being used goes down the conveyor line, and the machine knows exactly where to take the buttons off and just have the denim go through to be shredded into insulation. So that's a great thing that's going on within the industry itself. Plastic. We talked about plastic from the first picture. So not only in rivers, but we see plastic in our oceans. But what can we do with plastic? Can plastic be reinvented to make something else? The answer is yes. I'm going to show you a couple of things in just a minute. All right, so as a consumer, we all drink, I see a bottle of water there. So we got to be thinking, be a bottle of water there, several here and there. What are you going to do with those bottles when you get through with them? I would suggest that you recycle the bottle. Okay, so this, go online, there's a consumer. Going through the process in itself, when we recycle, that plastic bottle will be condensed down to granules. Those granules can then be made into yarns. Those yarns can then be made into clothing. I brought a couple things here to show you. These socks, made of plastic. Yes. This beanie, plastic. This is made of plastic yarns. Oh, sorry. This side too. Yeah. Let's pass that around. So those are the types of things that we can do nowadays with plastic into itself. And those are a company called Reprene has done this. So this is their process. So we have the bottle, like I said before, into the grains, to the yarns. Now I just brought you a sock and a t-shirt. I mean a sock and a cap. But they have plastic t-shirts. So there's a lot of things that we can do with plastic as far as clothing is concerned. In my classes, I usually have a current affairs day. Like I have 4 to 6 current affairs days. And what I do is I have the students pick up an article, any article from the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, etc., any particular magazine that they want to look at. And I say a topic. I say today's topic, sustainability. Here's just one example of what was within the last 2 weeks. Ralph Lauren is in on it too. Committed to removing at least 117 million bottles. Can you imagine? 117 million bottles. Ralph Lauren. From landfills and oceans by 2025. If you go out to the stores today, your Dillard's, your Nordstroms, you're going to see it in the polo section. It's called the Earth Polo. That polo is made from those plastic bottles from their factory in Taiwan, where the people in Taiwan are taking the plastic bottles from their lakes and streams to make the garment itself. So they're working with the countries themselves to make the clothing. So Ralph Lauren, great example. I want to introduce you to a company too. I said I work with several different companies to look at information about how they view carbon emissions, how they view pollution. One company is called, there's several companies, but for the purposes of this presentation, I thought I'd keep it down to one. This one's called the Carbon Disclosure Project. With the Carbon Disclosure Project, I can look at a company and gather all of their information. And then basically that's what I do with my research. I compare companies across the United States based companies, and I look and see things such as which company is producing the most carbon emissions. Based in the United States, who do you think that might be? Any retailer, should I say? Any retailer, a retailer. Which retailer in the world, a store, a company that carries clothing? No, think higher, bigger.
Walmart.
Yes, but on the same scale? Yes. Yes, ma'am. Target. Target has reported the highest level of carbon emissions over all the companies that I looked at. So that's something that I'm investigating and looking at. I looked at everybody from Walmart to Target all the way down to the stores in California, such as we have Levi's, The Gap. California has a cap and trade system. Therefore, our emissions are, I guess you could say, there's a level, top level, to where the emissions can be produced. So that's another discussion. But those are the types of things that I looked at with CDP. Okay. Here, I just thought I'd throw in another slide. I know this is Photoshop, but this is the types of things that are happening in the ocean. I mean, what can we as a consumer do as far as this is concerned? I talked about corporations. I mean, do y'all recycle? Something to think about, recycling. Walmart has a recycle center. Puma, some shoe stores have recycle centers. Nike has a recycle center. What does Nike do with these shoes that are recycled? Nike takes these shoes and they make things such as playgrounds, tennis courts, all types of things that we can recycle. So we need to be thinking about how can we take the product and what the company is going to do with it to come up with the bottom line here. So things to keep in mind as far as recycling is concerned. These are through my students. And let me tell you about a little bit of project that I did just recently. I had 60 students, and I challenged them to do a repurposed denim project. What they had to do was go to stores like Goodwill, any charitable organization, and take the denim product and make it into something else. The fellow you see in the middle developed a trench coat. That coat is made up of 7 denim jeans. Yes. The girl here on the end, she works in the dress shop. What she did was took all the remnants, now you can't see the back of it, but she took all the remnants from the dress shop and she redesigned the entire back of the denim jacket just by using those elements from the dress shop into the jacket. And the girl in the end, did kind of the same thing. But of the 60 students, I chose 12 that could represent and put them in a fashion show, 2 different fashion shows, to represent sustainability and repurposing in the denim industry. So those are just some of the types of things that I do within my program. So last but not least, we have a great responsibility to have the environment. Turning faster into a greener and more responsible industry is challenging. We know that. We must try to work together to make a difference. That's the only way it's going to happen is if we all push together, pull together. Environmental protection, economic growth. We have these companies joining together. It's interesting to hear some of the debates I heard within the last hour. But I'm very interested to hear what your stories are, the bottom line is for what different aspects you're going to take. I have my own interpretation, but I don't want to say this right now because I don't want to ruin anything. But any questions about anything? I think we have a couple of minutes here.
So I know a lot of people who are like disposing of like bottles and stuff.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are kind of unaware of where things are actually going whenever they put like a plastic bottle inside of a recycling
let me ask you a question. So where you live, you should have, there's two choices of where you put your trash, basically. There's two trucks that come. I don't know if what you're aware of. There's a garbage truck that comes around, and there's a recycling truck that comes around. Separate those things out. Waste management has several different options. You can have like a bucket for waste. If you put just your plastic bottles, if you look at their website, they give you a line list of things you can put in there, and they'll come and pick that up, and they'll go through it, and they'll send that off to be recycled. I mean, they'll take the recycle out and then turn those over to another organization who will make something else with them. So keep in mind, and I'm talking about Arkansas. I'm not sure what they do in Texas.
They do that.
The same thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Got the green bin and
Yes.
the blue bin.
We have the green and blue.
We
Yeah.
used to do it like, I don't want to follow the trucks.
Don't follow the truck. They're taking it to their facility, and they're organizing it, separating it out. And,
Can I add on to his question?
Yeah.
So some of it's easy recycling, like the ones with numbers on the bottom of the bottle, okay, that's easy recycling.
yes.
Then we have all this other ancillary plastic junk.
Yes.
It's been going to China.
Yeah.
China's now saying we don't want all of your bad plastics. So what happens now if we don't have people that will take our recycling?
And that is a problem. That's something some corporations are looking into. There's not a clear answer for that yet. We're trying to do things, different companies that I'm working with or observing, they're trying to make different things or with these different products. But let me get back with you on that for that answer, because that's a very, very tricky problem to deal with. Any other questions? Yes.
How often do companies recycle plastics to make like shirts and things like the shirt you said, or the cap you showed us in the office?
Well, it depends on the company itself, but if you go online and look up Repreve, R-E-P-R-E-V-E, they have an excellent factory facility where that's a constant thing that they have so much excess that it's a full-time job. I mean, they have a staff that's actually just doing that, and it's coming from different angles, from everywhere. So in some cases, it's all the time. Yes?
Kind of like you're saying here on the economic side of like all of this as well. Like I know that we were discussing a lot about how like with Ralph Lauren they're making like shirts and then you're passing around the socks and stuff. Is that typically more expensive than like like we're paying for socks that are made of plastic whereas instead of going like H&M and you get socks for like cheaper than that?
Okay.
Like, is it typically more expensive even though it is helping the environment?
I'm giving you one side, right? Okay, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Now, what I've observed is, I mentioned several companies. Not all companies believe in doing any of this, okay? And that's why I'm wondering if I'm going to hear that in some of the debate in itself. So, it is expensive. I know we have to talk about economics within the... Yeah, no, in some regards it is more expensive. Not in all cases, but that's why you'll find that you won't find a lot of anything about some certain companies. Or you might see information about certain companies. They may divulge information to companies like the CDP, which is an external organization, but they may not want the information divulged to the public. See, the information I use, the companies all agreed to go public, for the public to see it. But I won't mention the ones that did not, but they do report, and there's certain reasons why they don't. And that could be one reason.
Do you believe that companies, like, if they are more aware of like the effects that they're having on the earth and like deteriorating it, do you believe that at some point some of these companies would be willing to lower the price to help the environment and to have people lower income to be able to purchase those things?
Yes, and if you notice within the last year, I've noticed within the last year, there's been a growing trend for companies to actually start producing things sustainably. Within the last year, I say. Or basically, within the last 6 months to a year. Yeah. Yeah. So you notice that shit. Was that?
A lot of consumers really like that.
Yeah, it's a very good marketing push. The only thing I don't really like about it too much is that, to kind of allude back to his question, I don't think there's a lot of good information out there for the consumer yet. That's why he may not